Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends. He's Jason, I'm Chucky. We're ready to dive into some football, and the most exciting part, college football playoffs. I know we can make an argument like maybe a certain team from Indiana should be in, but they're not. But hey, the committee did their job, and we have to live with it. But it's an exciting time for us when you've got these four big college football playoff games to kind of kick off bowl season and playoff season. And we're going to dive right into it. I think the first game, Jay, is on Friday night. You've got a rematch of a game earlier this season between Oklahoma and Alabama. 8th-ranked Oklahoma, 9th-ranked Alabama in Tuscaloosa. What's interesting about this game is these two teams played in mid-November, and in that game, Oklahoma pretty much led the entire game, fell behind 21-20, but ultimately won that game 28-21. So it's kind of a rematch. Kind of a strange line, though, a little bit. As you saw, Alabama opened up 1.5, go down to pick, and then 1.5 again. Not sure who we're going to need to kick off right now, but I think you're going to need Oklahoma in this game.
Yeah, and actually, as we sit in this chair right now, this game is going back to Oklahoma being the favorite. We have Alabama a 1-point favorite, but there are several books moving this game going back to Oklahoma being the favorite. So some sharp money or some big money coming in on the Sooners at this time. So check where we're at on this game as you look to bet it. You talked about it. This is a rematch of the November 15th game where Oklahoma winning Alabama won 23-21. This was after Alabama lost to Ole Miss, went to Tennessee and won a game on the road, and then went to Alabama and won. And they kind of closed the season out, one of the hottest teams in the country, winning those games against Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, and Missouri, I think were their other wins in their 4-game stretch. On the flip side of it, Alabama kind of stumbled through the end of the regular season, and that was why you had some of that controversy of should Alabama get into the playoff. They lost this game to Oklahoma at home. We saw them go on the road to Auburn and kind of put up a clunker. They were able to have a big fourth-quarter touchdown where they didn't kick a field goal. They actually went for a touchdown very late in the game with a 27-20 win there. And then we all saw what happened.
Auburn come back in that game, a game they dominated early, and actually Auburn had a chance late in that game to either tie or maybe win the game.
Yeah, and then we all saw what happened in the SEC championship where they went to Atlanta to play Georgia, and Georgia just dominated them up and down the field, so much so that Alabama had -3 yards rushing, and everyone was calling for Alabama to be out of the playoff. Going back to that November 15th game, though, you talked about Oklahoma leading that whole game. Want to be cautious in that Alabama racked up 406 yards of total offense to Oklahoma's 212 yards of Oklahoma's offense. So Alabama does have the ability to move the football. Obviously, they were at home. This is a different situation. Traveling to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's getting some defensive tackle back, getting some injuries back. But Alabama, I think, does have the better offensive weapons. Specifically, we'll call out the local kid, Jeremy Bernard, who had 57 receptions, a little bit over 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, played for Liberty High School, is now at Alabama, so we look for good things from him. But Alabama offense, I would say, is the better offense on the field. You trust that Oklahoma defense and John Mateer,
you're going to have to,
who we had as a Heisman favorite in Mateer, the quarterback for Oklahoma, and he got injured, broken hand, middle of the year, and that Oklahoma offense just hasn't been the same since he's came back. They're a defensive club. Do you like an offense that we can't call a hot offense in Alabama because they've been struggling down the stretch here, but we'll call it the better offense, Ty Simpson to Jeremy Bernard versus that Oklahoma defense.
I'll give you some betting trends, too, to look at going into this game. So Bama comes in 8-3-1 against the number of their last 12 games. They've gone under 5 of their last 5 games, so 5 straight unders, 2-0 straight up their last 12. They're just 1-4, though, against the number their last 5 games against Oklahoma. Oklahoma 4-2 against the number their last 6 games. They've gone under 11 of their last 13 games. They're 5-1 straight up in their last 6. And they've gone under 4 of their last 5 games against Alabama. So really some under trends really are I think, are kind of the favorite in this game right now based on these trends and stats.
And this is our isolated playoff game on Friday night. So you know what you got? You got 10% match of the day bonus. Check out the app, get that match of the day 10% bonus on Oklahoma, Alabama, and they'll be our West Coast. One of these two teams is going to travel to play Indiana in the Rose Bowl. So that's what they got to look forward to, going up against number 1 Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Should they take the win home here?
Well, I know we're going to dive into the other 3 college football playoff games, but I really think it's the next round. If you don't have any major upsets, they're going to be phenomenal games in the next round. But let's jump into the Saturday games right now. So now I move to Saturday. Saturday. We have 3 games. You've got number 10 Miami at number 7 A&M. Aggies opened up a 4-point favorite in this game. It's now down to 3, their lowest point of where they've been so far. A few betting trends here. Total's gone under in 6 of Miami's last 9 games. They're 5-1 straight up their last 6 games. They're 8-3 straight up their last 11 games on the road. And they've gone under 7 of the last 10 times they played an opponent from the Southeast Conference. A&M only 5-12 against the number their last 17 games, but we know what their record is. They've been really dominant. They've also gone over 5 of their last 7 games. They're 11-1 straight up in their last 12 games, and 7-0 straight up in their last 7 games at home.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about these two teams, you use the term blue chipper in basketball, and talk about A&M and Miami. It's been 11 years that we've had the college football kind of playoff system, and neither of these two teams
Which
have,
is surprising,
have been
right?
in the playoff
Yeah.
system. So it's good to see these two teams in. Obviously, some controversy with the Canes getting in, but good to see these two teams. And again, traveling to Texas A&M, where you're going to have 102,000 people that fit in that stadium, very, very tough place to go play. The key for me in this game is our 2 quarterbacks. We could talk about the defenses of these teams, the running backs of these teams, but Carson Beck and Marcel Reed, to me, are the guys that are going to make or break this game. And it's easy to say that because quarterbacks normally do decide the game. Marcel Reed has decided, he just announced the other day, that he's coming back to A&M for another year. So you got to be excited as an A&M fan to not only be in this game, but to have him back for another year with Elko and the weapons that they have and the nil money that they have. They're building good things at Texas A&M. Obviously, Carson Beck, this will be his last year at Miami to see what he can do. But for me, this matchup, I'm surprised that line has gone a little bit towards the Miami Hurricanes.
I am as well, right? Yep.
Because I've talked about consistently that the ACC struggles that have gone into these
and
playoff
A&M's been
games.
so dominant at home this year as well.
Well, and again, your ACC versus SEC. We talked about all those years that Clemson was very, very good out of the ACC, but since then the ACC has been not represented itself well in the bowl conference series. They've had some blowouts. We talked about last year SMU getting blown out by Penn State, or they played Penn State. It was I think 38-10, and Clemson got blown out as well in both the ACC's appearance in the playoffs. So again, can Miami redeem the ACC and get a win here on the road, or does it continue with SEC teams are supposed to be in and SEC dominates the ACC?
We'll find out. This is one of the games, at least you've got a really low point spread though this weekend. This and the Oklahoma game. The other 2 games, you've got big numbers that you're looking at for the favorites. So.
And again in this one, guess what? Another 10% match of the day, Saturday morning bonus, 9 a.m. game, 10% match of the day. The winner of this one gets the gift of meeting the Ohio State Buckeyes. However, if it is Texas A&M that wins, it's about 150 miles north because that game is in Arlington, Texas. So it could be something to look forward to for A&M, maybe an upset special having to have Ohio State travel down to Texas.
All right, the next game on Saturday is number 11 Tulane and number 6 Ole Miss. We know the soap opera surrounding Ole Miss. We know with Kiffin leaving and this is kind of maybe a circle of the wagons, rally the troops, that we're going to go out and we're going to play a really good game here. This game's ping-ponged back and forth a bit with Ole Miss opening up a 17-point favorite. Initial line move was downward towards 16.5. It's been as high as 17.5, and again, it sits at 17 right now with a total of 56.5. I'll give you some betting trends, too, to think about for this one, Jay. Tulane's gone under 8 of their last 10 games. They're 1-5 against the number their last 6 games against Ole Miss. They're 0-8 straight up in their last 8 games against Ole Miss. They've gone under 6 of their last 9 games against Ole Miss. Look at Ole Miss. I mean, they've gone under 4 of their last 5 games against Tulane. They're 11-0 straight up in their last 11 games at home, and they're double-digit favorites here. And I still think this number is going to creep up a bit by kickoff on Saturday.
Well, we talk about this. This is another rematch, as we talked about Alabama and Oklahoma. Ole Miss knocked off Tulane 45-10 earlier in the season, so a big 35-point win. Obviously, we think both of these two teams have gotten better as the season's gone on. Otherwise, they wouldn't be playing this weekend. You talked about the Lane Kiffin saga.
Well, what's the psyche of Ole Miss? I think.
Well,
in this
I
game?
think there's a giant chip on the shoulder for those players, and obviously Pete Pete Golding, the new head coach. He's been the more vocal guy. They say Kiffin was the quiet guy in the locker room. Golding is the loud,
the rah-rah,
right?
Yep,
guy.
yep.
And so there's a lot of rah-rah in that team. There's a lot of rah-rah in that fan base. Excited for that playoff game. They're calling this the biggest football game to ever be played in the state of Mississippi. So they're excited for this game coming there. This would catalyze the season, but we don't know what the Ole Miss Rebels look like without Lane Kiffin and Lane Kiffin calling plays. On the flip side with Tulane, we also do have a coaching lame duck scenario. John Summerall, who's going to coach the Tulane Green Wave, allowing John Summerall, who is now the head coach of the Florida Gators, is still coaching this game for Tulane. So we have a lame duck situation. He won the game last week over North Texas, but again, now coaching his second game while he's the Florida head coach. So can Summerall, have this lame duck situation and get his team to play yet another game?
He can definitely be a little looser, I think, in
this.
this particular case. He can go for it on fourth down. They can do some fake punts, fake field goals. He can be a lot looser and run a different game based on the fact that he's leaving.
Yeah, they were unable to stop the pass in the first game. Chambliss threw for over 300 yards. Kejuan Lacey, the running back for Ole Miss, had 2 touchdowns, only 60 yards. So this game is going to come down to whether you like them on the money line or you like Tulane covering that point spread and getting 17 points. They're going to have to stand up on some defense. Ole Miss has that kind of bend but don't break defense, so Tulane should be able to move the football, but can Tulane consistently try and get any kind of stop from their defense to be able to cover this game?
It's going to be tough, I think. I think that the crowd base and the fans and the whole psyche of the Ole Miss team, this is the game. Maybe the second game they're not as fired up for just because maybe it sinks in then without our head coach, but this is the game. I think after the way Kiffin left, they're going to be fired up. It's going to be a really tough place for Tulane to go play. I mean, that crowd's going to be into it. The Grove's going to be rocking. It's going to be a tough spot.
And we'll add to it and we'll flip it, just like we've done the rest of them. Ole Miss wins this game. They go to New Orleans, the Sugar Bowl, to play Georgia, who they had a 9-point lead on in Athens and blew a fourth quarter lead. And if it's not Ole Miss, if it's Tulane, they're going home. They're going home to the New Orleans Sugar Bowl to play in front of a New Orleans crowd.
All those second round games are so good. I mean, they have the matchups to be really phenomenal games. So the late game and the last game on the docket is number 12 James Madison and number 5 Oregon. Oregon opened up a 21.5-point favorite. It's been as high as 22. It's kind of ping pong this game a little bit too. It's down to 21 right now. The big dip really is in the total. Total opened up 51. It's down to 47.5. A couple of betting trends here as well, guys. Total's gone over in 5 of Madison's last 7 games. They're 10-0 straight up their last 10 games. They're 5-0 straight up their last 5 games on the road. They're 5-0 straight up in the last 5 games played on a Saturday. Oregon just 10-5 against the number their last 15 games. They're 19-1 straight up in their last 20 games at home. That loss coming to Indiana this year. And, however, they're only 1-4 against the number in their last 5 games played in December. So they're huge favorites in this game. This game is kind of, as I said, ping pong back and forth, but they're the biggest favorite on the board and so far in the first round of the college football playoff games.
We just watched the Heisman Trophy ceremony, and congratulations to Fernando Mendoza for taking that home. But one of the things that a guy that wasn't at that Heisman Trophy ceremony was Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon. And yet, when you look at that NFL draft board, he's potentially one of those top 3 guys, if not the top quarterback coming off the board. So Dante Moore, I think, from a standpoint of I didn't get invited to the Heisman. I maybe haven't had the season that I was expected to have. Maybe comes into this game looking to maybe showcase himself.
And you can
to
make
the
a
NFL.
real case, though. This is one of the toughest places to play in the country.
Yeah, of course. And James Madison, the inclusion in the playoff here. This is the David versus Goliath story. As much as Tulane's a David versus Goliath story as well, this one becomes even more. They played 2, we'll call it true division, maybe even just 1, and they lost by 14 points at Louisville from the ACC. Louisville finished 7th in the ACC conference. James Madison lost to them by 14 points, and they snuck by late in the year with a 24-20 victory over Washington State. The lost Pac-12, one of the lost Pac-12 teams searching for a conference. So you look at those quality wins and ask yourself, James Madison sitting with that one loss to Louisville to find themselves in this situation. But for me, it's about how Oregon wants to play, how much they want to run this up, and look forward to going into Texas Tech next week. Do they just try to get through this game, run through this James Madison team, not put all the balls in the hopper, knowing that they've got an incredible Texas Tech team waiting for them, where they're going to have a special magic type game to knock out that Texas Tech defense. So I just don't know if it's an Oregon team that wants to go out there and beat. I mean, listen, they'd love to go out there and beat them by 40 and make it no game.
But
I just don't know that they want to showcase everything that they got. I think that they want to put some stuff on tape and not put everything on tape to let Texas Tech look at what they've got in that bag.
I'm not sure they need to showcase everything they have to win by the spread, but we'll see it. But I'm really excited about these 4 games. Really, it sets up phenomenal games for the next round. It's going to be exciting, these 4 games. Again, 1 game on Friday, 3 games on Saturday. As Jay mentioned, the 10% bonus on these games. Come out and enjoy everything we have to offer. It's going to be a fun weekend. Get signed up for the mobile app. We know it's that kind of that time of year where everyone's got honey-to-do lists and stuff going on. We've got $3 shots, $3 beers, $1.99 margaritas. So a lot of cool stuff going on right now to make the college football playoff games so much fun at all of our books.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sandwich in between. We talked about the Friday playoff game and the Saturday college football playoff games, but Saturday night there's a little fight with Joshua versus Paul on
Friday.
Yeah, Friday night, in between these the Friday and Saturday. So if you're here for Alabama, Oklahoma, stay a little bit later with us. Watch the fight action. We're showing it at all of our sports books for free, no cover. Enjoy this spectacle. I don't know if it's going to be WWE. We'll see how long it goes. But Paul is a big $7 dog, so plus 700. 100 will win you 700 on Jake Paul, and we'll see if he can stay on his feet and not get knocked out by the monster that Joshua is. But add that to your schedule. Friday night, late Friday night, after Alabama, Oklahoma. Stay with us for some boxing action.
And a little pro football. Before we jump in to this week's games and kind of critique what happened last week, first I want to congratulate the winner of the Pro Football Last Man Standing contest. We had one winner who did a phenomenal job 2 weeks ago. He had the Rams in that game minus 8.5 against the Cardinals. The other contestant had the Ravens minus 5.5 against the Steelers. Ravens lost outright. Rams crushed the Cardinals. So congratulations, $150K, one winner in the Pro Last Man Standing. So awesome job this year winning the contest. Just looking at last week a little bit, Jay, it was a little bit chalky. I think overall we had 5 games where you had double-digit favorites. The favorites went 4-1 in those games. Really kind of dominated. The only one that didn't was the Seahawks against an aging Phillip Rivers who came back, who almost lost that game, but they still were able to win that game. But it was overall it was kind of a chalky week. But as we look at this weekend, there are some big games this week, and we get right into it on Thursday night. The 11-3 Rams at the 11-3 Seahawks. These two teams played a few weeks ago, last month in November. Really close game here too, where the Rams squeaked it out. Seahawks had a chance to win late in the game, missed a field goal. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions in that game, really struggled a bit. But this is an opportunity for one of these two teams to maybe take command of the NFC and the NFC West.
Well, you talked about the win for Seattle this week over the Colts and Phillip Rivers, and it was all on the leg of Myers.
Right.
And again, he's been absolutely fantastic, and he's going to need to be again here. You wonder what is going through the mind of Sam Darnold as he, gets back on this stage again against this Ram team that picked him off 4 times, and especially in a game where they only lost 21-19, right, and he threw those 4 interceptions.
They could have won that game.
Yeah, so the defense was able to stand up, and he kind of let them down. So for me, and the schedule kind of dictates the size and a big game that this is for the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously hosting Thursday Night Football, but also should be known, this is Seattle's last home game of the season. They travel to Carolina next week and then to San Francisco the week after that. So this is their last home game, a chance to take the division lead, take potentially the conference lead, potentially a number one seed, all in one game here with two tough road games.
And check the weather though. This might be really Seattle type weather in this game. We know the Rams play in a dome or a quasi dome at SoFi, but it's supposed to be really windy and cold here. We've seen this total drop a lot, so check the weather before kickoff as well.
And the Rams obviously take on Seattle this week, but then they go to Atlanta and then at home against Arizona. So again, they still have kind of two very, very winnable games after this tough trip to Seattle. But the Rams last week, we saw Devontae Adams go out of that game, and the likelihood that he plays in this game is not good. Check his status. They've been a two-headed monster at the running back position. Been very, very good. We've seen Colby Parkinson really develop into a quality tight end right now, and Puka Nacua has been Puka Nacua-ish. He'll be a top 3 pick in all the fantasy drafts next year. But again, we saw him grabbing his leg and his knee at the end of last week's game. So are they coming into this a little bit more banged up? And if Devontae Adams is out of the game, what can the Seattle defense do to shift that coverage to be able to cover Nacua? So some unknowns there on the Rams side of the football, and some for me, just a pure motivation. If you're a Seattle Seahawk, if you play for the Seattle Seahawks, this is your season. Obviously, 2 tough games left to go, Carolina and San Francisco, but a home game against another 11-3 teams. This seems like a double circle on the calendar. Come on, Seattle Seahawks, see what we can get done.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, getting this time of year and having so many games with playoff implications are great. So that's a Thursday night game. Now we have Saturday. We have 2 games. The early game was supposed to be Green Bay at the Bears. It's been flexed to the late game on Saturday night. So as Jay kind of talked about, we've got a playoff game Friday night, we've got the fight Friday night, we've got playoff game Saturday, and then it caps off with this big game with the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field against the Bears in Chicago. And the script is almost identical to what it was 2 weeks ago. At that point, the Bears were the number 1 seed in the North, and the Packers were the number 7 seed. Packers won that game at home, 28-21. They led 14-3. Bears came way back in that game, had a chance at the end of the game to either tie the game or potentially go for 2 and win that game. Caleb Williams got picked off in the end zone. Bears lost 28-21. We've seen this number kind of hover around Green Bay 1.5, starting to come down a little bit. No Parsons, which will be a big loss. We're not sure about Watson right now. They might be playing without Watson, who had a big game against the Bears as well. This is a huge game for the Bears. I think you look at the winner of this game, and they really control their own destiny in the NFC North. And the Bears have the toughest remaining schedule out of any team in football. They play this game on primetime against the Green Bay Packers in Chicago. They then travel to San Francisco the following Sunday night for Sunday Night Football, where they have not played well. And then Week 18, there's a real shot that the Detroit Lions at the Bears could be the primetime game, and maybe winner is in, loser is out. This is the game for the Bears. They have to win. They're a surprise 10-4 team, but a chance to beat the Green Bay Packers at home without Parsons and Watson. I'm curious to see where this number eventually goes.
Yeah, I'm going to start on the Bears side. Obviously, they got, following the loss to Green Bay with the late interception, they had a chance to tie the game or take the lead. They did everything that they're supposed to do and beat up the Cleveland Browns this week. Essentially embarrassed the Cleveland Browns. Didn't allow Shadur Sanders to do anything. Defense looked fantastic. Playing in really cold weather. On the flip side, the fortunes for the Green Bay Packers have changed mightily over this past week in the fact that they knocked off the Bears. They have to be feeling fantastic. They then make the trip to Denver, where they're a favorite over Denver, and they walk out of Denver without Micah Parsons now.
And a loss.
And a loss without Micah Parsons, and you talked about obviously maybe potentially without Watson at receiver as well. And they've been banged up at receiver kind of all year long. It's been a Wicks to Golden to Reed to Watson to
don't
Kraft.
Don't forget they also lost Kraft, who was
a
big part of that offense. Love hasn't been the same quarterback without Kraft.
But they're such a big play team. That was the one thing that Denver did a good job of last week, is not letting the big play happen. They still have the stud running back in Josh Jacobs. He's been banged up, beat up. They've sprinkled in Emmanuel Wilson here and there. But the offense still flows through Josh Jacobs. He's the one that can pound the rock, keep that ball control for them. And then it's the big plays that Love's looking for down the field to all these different wide receivers. And I think from the standpoint of what the Bears need to do is we need to see a lot of running back, and not put this game on the shoulders of Caleb
Well, they're
Williams.
number 2 in the league in running the ball.
And-
They
and-
average
and-
151
and again,
yards
we
a game.
saw what they did against the Eagles in the Black Friday game when they were able to go to Philadelphia and have the two-headed running back both run for over 100 yards. I feel like that's what they need to do here. Sprinkle in some Caleb Williams, sprinkle in the big plays, hopefully to my fantasy tight end, Mr. Loveland, with Odunze being out. But I don't want this game to ride on the shoulders of Caleb Williams. I think that the Bears have done enough in the run game with no Parsons to attack that line. And obviously without Parsons, they may look to throw the ball a little bit more because that attack of the sack isn't there. But you talked about it. As much as I think that this is the game for the Seattle Seahawks, this is the game for the Chicago Bears. Yep. They have been owned by this Green Bay Packer team.
Which I will get into.
They continue to be owned by the Packers, beating them this year. If Ben Johnson truly wants to flip the script on who the Chicago Bears are and where the Chicago Bears are going, you can't go 0-2 against the Packers this season. I don't care where they go the rest of the year, where they go the rest of the playoffs, they have to knock off and at least go 1-1 against the Packers this season.
Well, the interesting thing is, I think in their first meeting, it was a game that was clearly dominated early by the Packers. They were up 14-3 in that game before the Bears kind of exercised their will a little bit in the second half, running the ball. But if you're the Green Bay Packers now and you don't have Parsons and you know how well the Bears run and they want to run the ball, I think it's what you said is you can't let it rely on Caleb Williams, but it might have to. Because if you're the Packers, you're going to say, I'm going to shut down that two-headed monster of running the football. We saw them wear us down. Maybe it's going to be Caleb Williams. He has to step up, have that big-time game, that signature win against the Green Bay Packers. Don't forget the Bears did split with them last year. They were able to get a win late in the season. So this is a huge game for them. But I'll give you some interesting betting trends about these two. So the Packers come in, though, just 4-8 against the number their last 12 games. They've gone over for their last 5 games. They're 11-2, to Jay's point earlier, against the number their last 13 games against the Bears. The total has gone over 4 of the Bears' last 6 games, and the Bears are 6-1 straight up in their last 7 games. So something's got to give here a little bit, but I agree. I think this has to be the game that if you're the Bears, you can go to 11-4, control your own destiny, the NFC North, but you get a chance to beat your arch rivals, the Green Bay Packers. It's not going to be quite as cold as it was last week against Cleveland, but it's still going to be Bear and Packer weather. What a great game on Saturday Night Football.
This will be, we talk about match of the day on Saturday morning, taking the A&M Miami game. We chose to go match of the day here on this game in the evening on Saturday. So you won't get that match of the day on the Oregon James Madison. You'll get it Packer Bear 10% bonus.
Stop Bears against the Cheeseheads. Great place to watch it here. Won't be quite as cold. So, anyway, we're going to jump into the Sunday slate right now. There's some big games on Sunday, too. You've got the LA Chargers, who are playing really well right now, playing against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys need a miracle at this point. They're 6-7-1. Chargers are 10-4. We know the Chargers are behind the Broncos, currently sitting a wild card spot. Cowboys opened up 2.5-point favorite. They're now a 1.5-point favorite. Total's gone from 48.5 to 49.5. Here's some betting trends here, guys, as well. Chargers 4-1 against the number of their last 5 games. They've gone under, coincidentally enough, 4 of their last 5 games. They're 6-1 straight up their last 7, but just 1-4 against the number of their last 5 games on the road. Cowboys have gone over 9 of their last 11 games, which is no big surprise. They've gone over 5 of their last 7 games at home. The total's also gone over 5 of the last 6 games against an opponent at home from the AFC. So a lot of over kind of stats here, and that's been the Cowboys' MO. Almost every game you get a high-scoring, game that's going to be sailing over with not a lot of defense. Game again has come down from 2.5 to 1.5.
Yeah, and the Chargers. Let me start with the Cowboys because you talked about them playoffs and their opportunity. They need to win all 3 games, and they need the Philadelphia Eagles to lose all 3 games. Philadelphia plays at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday at the Washington Commanders. If the Eagles win that game, the Cowboys are favored in this game. There might be a lack of motivation, and you could see this game go to a pick, or potentially the Chargers even favored based on the results of that Eagles game on Saturday. So pay attention there. If you like the Cowboys, might be the time to get on them now. Because if maybe the Eagles lose to the Commanders, this line will go up the
if you like
Cowboys
the
have a little bit
Chargers,
light.
maybe the time's to get on them now.
Yes, so there's some things to look at there. Obviously, the Eagles game could be helpful in determining what this point spread is. But I talked about it, and I talked about if we went back and did a rewind on bookends for the past 3 weeks, that the most intriguing, exciting team to watch in this final stretch of football was the Los Angeles Chargers. And now we see them win a home game against the Eagles, and then they go on the road as 5.5, 6-point underdogs and knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs, so we don't have to watch them in another playoff run. But this Charger team is starting to find something. Justin Herbert, the broken hand, the running game, the receivers that they have, and there seems like they're finding it on the defensive side of the football. Right. Now, I'm excited about this Charger team and what they've been doing, but we just have to go back 3 weeks ago, and they got lit up by the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think 35-6, something like loss in that game. So the Chargers do have that ability to throw a clunker in there, and obviously we know Dallas has the talent on the offensive side of the football to move the football, but man, what an embarrassing loss to the Minnesota Vikings, who are a team we've been talking about that is kind of sometimes good, more or less they've been really, really bad. J.J. McCarthy got healthy against the Commanders.
Well, it's still
in the big
his
win at
rookie
home.
year. But I mean, you have to remember that he missed
again
all of last year.
Came with a game and looked good. He threw a little gritty as he did the naked boot to score a touchdown there.
Sort of a gritty.
So he had some confidence to walk into Dallas and play really well. Vikings played really well and knock off the Dallas Cowboys. So as much as you get excited about the Cowboys, that defense still not able to get any big stops against the Minnesota Viking team. And now I would say you have a higher quality offense in the Los Angeles Chargers and a higher quality defense in the Los Angeles Chargers than what the Minnesota Vikings just came to town with. The Chargers are a team that's currently in the playoffs. Minnesota was not. So for me, the motivation, the better team here is the Chargers, and I don't know quite why we see the Cowboys favored here, other than the fact that you continue to throw out names like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Pickens and Ferguson, and that they have offensive weapons. But to me, again, as much as I was surprised the Chargers were as big of a dog as they were to the Chiefs last week, I'm surprised they sit in this same situation as a dog at Dallas.
Well, that was a bad loss for the Cowboys, but don't forget, it was just a few weeks ago we were talking about the Cowboys who had just knocked off the Eagles and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks. And we thought they had kind of turned the corner a little bit. They made those trades. The defense was playing better. The offense was healthier. This was a really bad loss for them. Had they won that game against Minnesota, we'd probably be talking about a different Cowboy team right now and a different spread in this game. So they really need to circle the wagons, kind of bounce back defensively. They've got a lot of tools on the offensive side of the ball, but we'll see what they can get done here. Big game for me, it's going to be kind of fun to watch, is an NFC South battle between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. Both teams come in, Jay, 7-7. Both teams had a chance to win last week and let a game get away from them. So, I mean, and they play again in 2 weeks in Tampa. Carolina's been a really good home team this year. I think you look at this game, and Tampa 0-6 against the number their last 6 games. They've gone over 8 of their last 12 games. They're just 1-5 straight up their last 6 games. However, they're 7-3 against the number their last 10 games against Carolina. Carolina's gone over 8 of their last 10 games at home, yet they're just 1-5 straight up in their last 6 games at home against Tampa.
Yeah, we talked about it this week and the last time we did it, we saw the collapse of Tampa Bay on Thursday night against the Falcons, and the week before that, they lost at home to the Saints, and then we watched the Carolina Panthers have an opportunity to travel to
Saints,
New Orleans and lose to the Saints again. So the New Orleans Saints, who are a bottom 6 team in the NFL as we sit today, in back-to-back weeks have knocked off who we expect to be the NFC South division champion and be a playoff representative.
Right.
So you talked about it. These teams are going to play twice in the next 3 weeks. Sandwiched in there, Tampa Bay gets to travel to Miami. Carolina has a home game against Seattle. We know where Seattle is sitting at the top of things. So the importance of this game is there. But man, these two teams have. It's been a who doesn't want to win the division, who wants to win the division. The big thing here in this game, though, is Tampa Bay got Hall of Famer Mike Evans back in the lineup. Now, they a terrible, terrible loss to the Falcons in a game that they had the huge lead. We watched Kyle Pitts become the Kyle Pitts that we thought he was going to be when the Falcons drafted him, and Kirk Cousins continued to go to him.
Coincidentally enough, the two best games he's had over the last 2 years have both been against Tampa.
A terrible game by Tampa. I thought the clock management by Tampa was terrible, and I thought if Tampa didn't have 2 games against the Panthers left on the schedule, that I really question if they would be hanging on to Todd Bowles, because I thought the clock management and what they were doing and allowing Atlanta to get back in that game was atrocious. But it's gone. It's over. It's essentially a 3-game schedule for both these two teams with 2 of them head-to-head. But Mike Evans is a difference maker.
But Carolina's a much better team at home.
He's always been a difference maker, on the field. You combine him now with a healthy Chris Godwin, an emerging Emeka Egbuka, who we talked about his rookie season, how good he was. If Baker Mayfield gets these weapons back, again, with a healthy Bucky Irving, a guy that they've been missing, they, again, go back to a team that has an incredible amount of offensive weapons. Baker Mayfield just needs to not turn the ball over, get these guys out. But they need to stand up from the defensive side of the football. They allowed Atlanta, they now allowed New Orleans to move the ball up and down the field on them. Tampa Bay needs to show something on defense. To me, they seem very, very slow on defense. They don't do a good job of covering guys. So again, you're going to see McMillan or Coker for the Panthers trying to stretch that field, trying to stretch that big play. But for me, this game comes down to, can Carolina cover Mike Evans? Because I think Mike Evans has another 150-yard, 11, 12 target type game. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm resting my season on Mike Evans, and I'm pumping him the football this week.
Yeah, very well could happen now that he's back in that offense. They've got a lot of weapons. A big AFC battle coming up here. This is a game that I think before the season started, if somebody told us that, hey, the Jacksonville Jaguars on Week 16 would be in first place and the Denver Broncos would be in first place, we would have both said, I don't think so. You look at Jacksonville's won 5 in a row. Denver's won 11 in a row. They're both really playing great football right now. It's a really interesting matchup with Denver just being a 3-point favorite at home. You look at, they're undefeated at home as well. They're 7-0 at home this year, the Denver Broncos. But I really think you look at Jacksonville, and I didn't think they were very good 5 or 6 weeks ago. I know we talked about it, that Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing well. But since the trade of Jacoby Myers, even with Travis Hunter hurt, that offense is starting to play much better. And he's kind of turned his season around. And they're kind of a fun team to watch right now. And they're in first place in the AFC South.
Yeah, Jacksonville, again, we were excited about this team when the season started. The move from Liam Cohen, who was the offensive coordinator at Tampa, taking over the head coaching gig.
And he really helped Mayfield kind of take that next step.
The offense at Tampa, we were excited about everything that we were seeing down there, moving the football. Saw Mayfield put up the great stats. McMillan, Godwin, Evans, Otten, they put up big numbers. And he just didn't click at the beginning of the year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, Brian Thomas, their star receiver, acquiring
He's had a little bit of a down year this year.
Acquiring Hunter, he's been injured. The season just didn't click right off the bat. But you talked about it. They get Jacoby Myers. They bring Thomas along. He's now back and healthy. We still don't have Hunter. You got Strange at the tight end. And then they've got this crazy running back where they just shuffle guys in and out between Etienne and Tootin and different stuff there. But Lawrence is the driving this ship. He can be a good Lawrence when he is not turning the football over. Sometimes he just throws interceptions that you ask yourself, what was he looking at? What was he? What did he see? What did he not see? But great for the Jacksonville Jaguars sitting where they are. And we talked about this several of the weeks. They've had the soft schedule, the gift that keeps on giving of not having to play some of these tough teams. This is now their tough stretch at Denver, at Indy, the next 2 weeks. Then they get the home game against Tennessee. But these next 2 weeks are going to be big for them. And we talk about the biggest game, this Denver Broncos team, a team that I talked about it with John when we talked about last week. They're calling them the cardiac kids, in that only one time in the last 11 weeks against the Raiders was a game that they didn't have to come back in. But now they came back last week against the Green Bay Packers, when the Green Bay Packers were favored on the road against them. So Denver's kind of showing me they got some gumption. And this Bo Nix,
it was also his best game. 4 touchdown passes, over 300 yards passing against that against that Green Bay defense. He played really well in that game.
We talk about the comeback kids, the cardiac, but there's no give up. And finding these receivers, whether it's Sutton or Franklin or Mims, they just seem to have weapons all over the field. Harvey out of the backfield. I'm starting to have some belief in Denver. And right now, Denver's sitting as our overall number one seed. And we saw the Patriots lose, and the Patriots have a very, very tough Sunday night game at Baltimore that we could be looking at a Bronco team with a win here and a win next week over now a Kansas City team that is without Patrick Mahomes, and they could rest their starters in Week 18 against the Chargers. So for me, this becomes a big monster game for the Broncos to hold on to that number one seed and watch the AFC playoffs flow through Denver. And I wasn't a believer.
But still, don't forget, only the number one seeds in each conference get the bye. So they could have that bye as well.
And I wasn't a believer, but last week, to do what they did against the Packers, and again, just this moxie that Knicks has to have, I'm starting to be a believer that maybe this team has some type of special magic in the craziness of what we're seeing in this year's NFL.
Just some real quick betting trends, Jay, in this game as well. Jacksonville 5-0 against a number of their last 5 games. They've gone over 5 of their last 7 games. However, they're just 1-4 straight up in their last 5 games against Denver. As you mentioned, Denver, 11 games in a row, so they're 10-0 straight up in their last 10 games. They've gone under 5 of their last 7 games against Jacksonville. They've gone over 7 of their last 8 games when playing at home against Jacksonville. So some trends there to look at as well.
Yeah, one thing, I'll check the weather there in Denver as well on Sunday. Monday night, we just saw the Miami Dolphins travel to Pittsburgh as a 3-point underdog, and I think that cold weather, we always talk about Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins not doing well when the temperature gets below 32 degrees. Jacksonville's in the same state as Miami, traveling to Denver. I wonder how much of those Jacksonville Jaguars love traveling and being in that cold weather, potentially in Denver. So again, if we're looking at a cold game in Denver, again, another checkmark advantage to the Denver Broncos.
All right, so another really interesting matchup has an AFC team against an NFC team. Both teams come in 8-6. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are in first place in the AFC North, against the Detroit Lions, who are currently on the outside looking in. I think we kind of look at the entire league this year and the fact that the Chiefs, with the injury to Mahomes, even before the injury, they were eliminated. So they're out of the playoffs. You look at the Baltimore Ravens right now, they're on the outside looking in. And you look at the Detroit Lions right now, who are on the outside looking in. Before the season started, my guess is that most people, including us, if you would have said pick 5 or 6 teams that you think have a legitimate chance to be playing in late January or in February, we would have had the Ravens, the Lions in that mix for sure, and the Chiefs. All 3 of those teams potentially could miss the playoffs. You look at a Lion team now that's at home. We know how good they are at home. After a loss, they've been really dominant of late. But it's a Lion team that has to kind of win out. Week 18, they play at Chicago. Depending on what happens with their last 2 games and how the Bears, who play against the Packers and against the 49ers do, that might be a game that, hey, the winner's in, the loser is out. Huge game for Detroit at home, and a huge game for Pittsburgh right now, who really has control of their own destiny at 8-6. But they do host the Ravens Week 18 as well in Pittsburgh.
There's not too much to think about or even have to study in this game. 10 straight weeks. We talked about it last week. The Lions lose, then they win. They lose, then they win. They lose, then they win. We've gone 10 straight weeks with the Detroit Lions alternating wins and losses. They lost this week to the Rams. I thought they actually played a pretty good game. They did, yeah. Again, just unable to control Puka Nacua. They're at home. They're off a loss. This is a Lions winning week. I would be afraid of Amon St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs in this week.
Aaron Rodgers does, however, know this Detroit team very, very well.
I think this is, again, a get healthy week for the Detroit Lions. Start all your Lions in your fantasy football playoffs. I think that they have a big week. Pittsburgh got to pick on the frozen fish this week. We saw the decent game out of Gainwell and the big plays to Metcalf. But I think we have we'll call it the Dan Campbell pissed off Lions. And I think we get to see what the Lions do off of a loss. And unfortunately for Pittsburgh, they're walking into that situation.
All right, I'll give you a couple of betting trends here too, Jay, that are really interesting for this matchup. Pittsburgh just 3-6 against the number of their last 9 games against Detroit. They're 5-0-1 straight up their last 6 games against Detroit. However, they're only 2-7 against the number of their last 9 games on the road, but they are 4-2 straight up in their last 6 games of playing on the road at Detroit. Detroit just 1-4 against the number their last 5 games. We've talked about some of their struggles. They've gone over 6 of their last 7 games. They've also gone over 4 of their last 6 games against Pittsburgh and over 4 of their last 5 games. So you might be looking at a lot of scoring in this game.
Yeah, it's been the health of the Lions on the defensive side of the football. That's where the struggle has been. They're missing some linebackers. They're missing some defensive backs. But again, Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers have not shown that they're a team that can normally take advantage of weaknesses in the secondary. Obviously, the Metcalf is obviously the big receiver, but they're not loaded with offensive weapons. They're a team that needs to ground it out more, and rely on their defense. And unfortunately, I just don't think the defense, absent of Watt, is going to have much to defend against the Lions this week.
So another game we're going to look at is a huge AFC matchup. It's the primetime game. I think we talked about it earlier about teams that kind of surprised us a little bit where they're at right now. And Denver and Jacksonville, Chicago, all kind of surprise teams. The other one would have to be the first place AFC East New England Patriots. Patriots come into this game 11-3, and they're playing at Baltimore. Baltimore just 7-7 on the outside looking in right now. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite with a total of 48. I think the real surprising thing for me is we know they've had some injuries this year, but they've been so non-dominant at home. The Ravens are a surprising 3-5 at home this year. And on the flip side, the Patriots are 6-0 on the road. They're undefeated on the road. So this matchup with the Ravens just being a small favorite is a big game to both teams. Patriots had a 21-0 lead last week, found a way to lose to Buffalo, and this Raven team, they need to win out right now. They do play at Pittsburgh Week 18, but that was just a bad loss last week. They really need to turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah, they had that. The Patriots I'm talking about had that incredible run, had the 21-point lead. We saw 2 rushing touchdowns by May. Travion Henderson has the big plays, the big game. But again, they're unable to stop and control Josh Allen. He's just able to find ways to move that team down the field. It's got to feel like a real blow to that New England Patriot team to lose that game after the situation they were sitting in.
You talked about some of the earlier games that by the time a game kicks off, they're going to know what happened in a game that means something. The Buffalo Bills play at the Cleveland Browns. They're double-digit favorites in that game, a game they probably should win. So when New England takes the field Sunday night in Baltimore, they're going to know if Buffalo already won or lost that day. If Buffalo wins, they have a chance then to have the identical records, and they would have split the two head-to-head matchups this year. So the Patriots, who were in sole possession of the AFC and the AFC East, could possibly see that diminish and could be a wild card team by the end of this weekend.
Yeah, and they've got obviously a very, very tough game here at Baltimore. They do finish with 2 very, very winnable games at the Jets and then home against Miami. So a slip up here. They still have 2 winnable games on their schedule. But again, for me, it's about that loss that they had and how do they bounce back.
Yeah.
They were sitting at the top of the conference, potentially available to get that number 1 seed in the bye and winning the division. And they're a very, very good football team. And I've talked about it at length. We talked about it with John last week between the Bengals and the Ravens. This Raven team they've been ugly. They don't win pretty. Lamar Jackson doesn't play pretty. We're not a Derrick Henry dominant run team.
To be 3-5 at home is just not
Raven-esque. It's a scramble and find plays. I just don't know if they're the better team on the field against this Patriots team. But it's that backs up against the wall mentality for Baltimore, that this is the must-win game for them to get in, because they do finish at Green Bay and then at Pittsburgh. So a loss here by Baltimore could be really, really devastating to their playoff chances. But I do think still the Patriots are the more complete team on the field. And I've heard, the Ravens have flipped the script. The Ravens, they just knocked off the Bengals, 26-0, 28-0 last week.
Right.
Joe Burrow threw 2 red zone interceptions. I think that they had
one was returned for a touchdown.
Downs inside the red zone. Yeah, it was an interception return. So I don't know that Baltimore Raven defense is truly back. The Bengals were able to move the ball up and down the field. And again, we're talking about a Bengal team that has 4 wins. So I don't know that they should be overly impressed with that win there, especially playing with no Higgins. They were solid. There's a lot of weapons coming in here for the Patriots. I think the Patriots team off a loss, it's going to be in that locker room, it's, hey, we've earned the right to be here. We now have to respond when we lose. And we lost to the Buffalo Bills, and they lost in what we'll call a bad manner in the 21-point lead to then to allow the Bills to come back. And not only take the lead, but then the Patriots take the lead back, and then they give it back up again. So just the way that they lost that game, I think that locker room is looking for a big win here. And if they don't get it, I'm still not pushing the panic button because, like I said, they have the Jets and the Dolphins on that schedule.
Right. The last game we're going to look at is the Monday night game, and this has the San Francisco 49ers traveling to play the Indianapolis Colts. And wow, what a few weeks it's been for the Colts. I mean, this is a team that probably about a month ago we were looking at as the best team in the AFC. They've now lost 4 games in a row. They've lost Daniel Jones. Their chances of making it to the playoffs are less than 10% right now. They're a 6-point underdog at home. Phillip Rivers played well in that game against Seattle, or I guess as well as you can expect a guy who hasn't been in the league for several years. But it's a Colt team that looked like potentially one of the 1 or 2 best teams in the AFC about a month or so ago to a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs right now.
Well, we'll see. This is a game that they need to continue to go back.
They have to, right.
Go back. We talk about the well with the Indianapolis Colts, and whether it was Daniel Jones or Phillip Rivers, you got to use Jonathan Taylor, and he's got to be the guy that runs the football, keeps the opponent off the field.
You're going to put 8-9 guys in the box. You're going to say, you have to beat us, Phillip Rivers. We're not going to let Jonathan Taylor beat you.
Yeah, and the one thing Rivers didn't do last week in that Jones had the ability to do was attack the defense down the field.
He didn't throw downfield at all.
To Alec Pierce. We saw Pierce only have that 1 reception. It was more underneath to Downs and Warren and those quick passes to get the ball out. Maybe another week of looking at the offense, getting the speed of the NFL game back for Phillip Rivers will help him. And there was no better defense to see in your first game back to see the speed of the NFL and the size of the NFL again after 5 years off than the Seattle Seahawks. And so you have to give some props to the Colts in the fact that they went into Seattle as 13.5-point dogs and lost on a end-of-game field goal to that Seahawks team. So I have a lot of goodness for me for the Colts and what they did in that game. And now they come home, and again, truth be told, Purdy, McCaffrey, Kittle, and Jennings, I think I own one of them in all my fantasy leagues. So I've been a big Niners fan from a fantasy standpoint, and they've been putting up the stats. But the San Francisco 49ers are really banged up on defense. We lost Warner. They've lost guys on defense.
They've been banged up all year.
They've had a super soft schedule. They've been able to put things up offensively, but they have not been a dominant defense. And so they are a bend but don't break defense. They will allow you to move the football down the field. I think this number is a little high as it leaks towards 6.5 to 7. I do like the Colts in this spot. I feel like it's again, you talked about could be potentially a division winner to now giving away the division and giving away the playoffs.
They have to
entirely.
win out. They have to win out and get some help.
The way the Colts, the way the Texans have kind of come on, the way the Jaguars have come on, this is a big monster game for the Colts. But a Monday night situation with the 40-plus quarterback. We talk about magical
Anthony
stories.
Richardson could be back to help out.
We have seen a magical story just about every week in this year's NFL. We've seen that moneyline dog be very, very popular in the NFL. And this week, if there's any story that would just be incredible, it would be Phillip Rivers pulling a win here on a Monday night.
Well, I can tell you that from our side of the counter, we are going to need Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis.
Well, I don't. It's not for me. It doesn't have to be Phillip. Phillip Rivers can cheer, but I want it to be Jonathan Taylor, and I don't have him in fantasy, but Jonathan Taylor is the path to victory for the Indianapolis Colts.
All right, here's some interesting betting trends. Two, think about San Francisco. They do play this game, but the following week, as I mentioned earlier, they host the Bears on Sunday Night Football, which might be a very impactful game for both those two teams as far as wild card or potentially the division. San Francisco 5-1 against the number of their last 6 games. They've gone over 4 of their last 6 games. However, they're only 1-4 against the number their last 5 games against the Colts. The total's gone under 4 of Indy's last 6 games. And talking about Indy's collapse a little bit, 1-5 straight up in their last 6 games. However, 8-1 straight up in their last 9 games at home. So they're a much different team at home. As Jay mentioned, it's got to be a lot of Jonathan Taylor to the right, Jonathan Taylor to the left, and see what happens in this game. But there are about 6 to 8 really impactful games this week with playoff implications for one or both teams.
And the other side of things, there's a lot of impactful games for teams that want to lose for that number 1 pick. We question ourselves, what are some of these teams doing? I don't know what the New Orleans Saints or the Titans or the Jets are doing for these wins. We talk about the Giants playing the Raiders next week, but we're seeing some of those bottom teams maybe want to stay at the bottom because they want that higher draft pick. So there's always something to look for in those bottom teams as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see ultimately what happens. And I think, you look at Mendoza winning the Heisman and Heisman Trophy and how he does at, the draft combine. He's going to be a guy that I think a lot of teams, if it's the Raiders, if it's the Jets, teams that are looking for a quarterback are going to want to move up if they don't have that number 1 pick to get a shot at Mendoza. The rookie quarterback that has the most wins this year, you know who that happens to be?
Rookie quarterback with the most wins.
Happens to play for the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
Tyler Shuck has 3 wins this year. Kind of a big surprise. Rookie quarterback with the most wins. But it's going to be an exciting week. And for Jason and myself and for John, just want to wish all you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to our sports betting podcast, Bookends. Like to have a lot of fun, give you guys some information, and hopefully give you guys some winners. But it should be a fun week. Don't forget the match of the day. Get signed up for STN Sports, up to a $50 no-worry wager, the great drink specials, and as Jay mentioned, Friday night, Joshua Paul in the book here. So it's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. So again, happy holidays. We look forward to seeing you guys in some great college football playoff games, some great pro football playoff games with a lot of playoff great pro football games with a lot of playoff implications. So a lot of fun stuff going on. So
yeah, and if you want to give somebody the gift of STN Sports, we do have that $50 no worry wager going on. So maybe it's a $50 bill with the STN Sports logo. Just cut it out and
in your stocking.
Send them in, and we'll give them that $50.
What a great stocking!
We'll give them that $50 no
it.
worry wager. So give the gift of STN Sports.
It's a great idea. So for Jason, I'm Chucky, and of course for John, I want to wish all you guys again a happy holidays. Good luck, and for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports, we will see you guys real soon.